So it is time for my May wrap up. This month has been so busy. Like literally, I did three readathons. I did the Books for the Brave, I did the Mental Health-a-thon, and I did Believe-a-thon too. In addition to that, I did two buddy reads, I think, but spanning 3 books, and I also did a 24-hour readathon of my own. So it's been quite a busy month. I have read a total of 16 books, and I've literally been so burnt out recently. I've been taking the last few books so slowly, and I'm kind of hoping I'm ready to continue books now that the new month has started, because I am doing a month of mood reads during June. So we'll see. So to begin with this month, I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, and I gave this book a 3-star rating. I really did struggle with this book in terms of how to rate it, not with reading it. I thought it was an excellent book. I read this for Mental Health-a-thon, and I read it because the prompt was something you want to learn more about. And then I also incorporated it into an additional prompt because I couldn't get hold of the original prompt. What was the second prompt? It was the host pick, because I picked Victoria's host pick from what Victoria read, which was Turtles All the Way Down. And I really did enjoy the book. I thought it was so good. It was very character driven, and it taught me so much about OCD. If that is a topic you want to learn more about, I cannot recommend this book enough. The only reason it didn't get a higher rating from me is because it was very character driven and there wasn't a lot of plot, which I don't mind. I can read a good character driven book, but it's very unlikely to get a high rating from me because I need a plot. I'm the type of person that needs a plot to roll with. So it got a 3-star rating, which, considering the type of book it was, it's a good book. It was a very good book. It got a very good rating. So the book is about a young girl called Aza who has anxiety and OCD, and they're kind of on a search for a missing billionaire. But the story, like that kind of plot, just takes a bit of a backseat. It's not really that important. It's about her journey with friendships and family and her relationship with the missing billionaire's son. And it is a beautiful story. Honestly, even though I only gave it a 3 stars, I would recommend you reading it, because it only got a 3 stars because it was not the type of book I would like to read. So typically a book like that would get a very low rating from me, but it did really well. So 100% would recommend it. Please do. If you want to know more about OCD or anxiety, check it out, because it opened the world for me. It really did. It opened my mind to so much, and it changed how I viewed OCD because I didn't know much about it to begin with. So I did enjoy it. I can't say I didn't. So after that, I moved on to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, this was the first book I did as a buddy read. I did this as a buddy read with Jade from paperback to hardback. And I read this, gave it a 5-star, absolutely loved it, so that we could move on to Good Girl, Bad Blood. Now, these 2 books, wow. These were very good. They are very much a YA thriller, YA mystery. They are about a young girl called Pippa Fitzamoby who, because she needs to do it for an EPQ for school, college, whatever, she decides to look into the murder case of a young girl called Andy that happened in her town 5 years previous, with the only rules being she's not allowed to contact any of the family of the missing girl or the boy that murdered her, because it is an open and shut case. They know who did it. It's fine for her to look into it because it's kind of case closed, done. But as she does that, Pip begins to realise that maybe they got it wrong. Maybe the boy Sal, who was arrested for the crime, or who was going to be arrested before he committed suicide and left a confession, maybe he didn't do it. And if he didn't do it, then why did he leave a note saying he did? Maybe he was murdered as well. So the story follows that. And it is really interesting and really fun to see Pip work all of this out. The amount of times when I was reading this with Jade, I kept sending theories to her. I also sent theories to Brooke, who me and Jade did this one with, because Brooke had never read this as well, so we did it as a three-way buddy read. And throughout the first book, I sent loads of theories to Brooke and Jade. Brooke knew the ending because she'd read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And it was just so fun to keep coming up with theories and discovering new things. So you shared loads of new things. And then the second book, I kind of cheated and got a bit of a head start. So much of a head start that I finished before they started. Because I am a really slow reader. Brooke and Jade are bloody whiz through in it. And I was like, no, I need a bit of a head start. So that was the first book. The second book then follows Pip after the events of the first book. And she decides it's not for her. She set up a podcast about the incident that happened in the previous book, and she decides, I can't ever do something like that again. It was just too much for me. And then one of her friend's brothers goes missing, and the police won't help because it's not unusual for him to do something like that. So Pip takes up the case because if the police can't do anything, she has to. And that story was equally as good. I liked it a little bit less than the first book just because I felt as though the ending was a bit meh. Like, it's just a bit lackluster given how amazing the first book was. But the books both use kind of like a mixed media format. They use courtroom sketches, they use text messages, they use emails, police reports, things like that. And the quality of those mixed media elements was so much higher in the second book, which made it a great book. So overall, they both got 5 stars from me because I thought they were great, and I would urge you to read them if you have not already. So after that, I read The Million Pieces of Nina Gill. And I read this one for Mental Health-a-thon also. This one was the group book. So this was chosen by Nicole as the group book this time. And this is a story about a girl whose brother went missing. And basically she's not coping very well with that. The story itself was very difficult for me to read. It got a 3-star for me. And I think after the book, I kind of realised that probably was a bit unfair. I felt as though the book was very good. It was very well written. Again, I don't think it was very plot driven. It was very much about this character's internal struggle and how that manifested itself externally to other people, which was really interesting to read about. But again, I need a bit of a plot, so it was automatically a bit lesser than a 5-star rating. But this book awakened so much in me because it made me realise that I had some unresolved issues in my personal life with someone in a similar situation on a path of self-destruction. Like, this was all in the past. I was kind of finished with it. I'd worked through it. I was fine. And I think it wasn't left really unresolved. It was just that it brought it back up for me, and I was like, oh, right, this is a bit too close to home right now. I'm not too comfortable with this. So that automatically put the book on a bit of a lower level of what it could have been. So overall, I gave it a 3 stars. Can't really complain about it. It was a good book. It just definitely was not for me. I should not really have read it. But I didn't know at the time. I read it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. It just had a bit more of an effect on me than I was happy for it to have. So after that, what did I read after that? Just checking. Yes. After that, the 5th book I read was Don't Tell Mummy by Tony Maguire. If you checked out my Mental Health-a-thon vlogs, you will know that the second I finished this, I said I was unhauling it. But I have nowhere to unhaul it to, so right now it's just in a box on my floor ready to go to a charity shop. I hate this book. I hate it. It is awful. It got a high rating for me because it got a high rating, it's not really high. It got a 3-star rating for me because the story is important. The story is about a young girl who is sexually, physically, mentally abused by her father, and her mother doesn't do anything to help her. And it's about how that affects her because she gets pregnant at a young age. She has an abortion that goes wrong and she nearly dies from that. It's about her as an adult struggling to deal with that. And that story is so important because it happens so much, and it is about children being told that they are not allowed to talk about things like that. And that was so important to get out there. So I gave it a higher rating because of how brave it was for the author to write about her personal experience, and because of how important it was that that message got out there. But I didn't like that book. There are so many content warnings in there. There is sexual assault, child abuse, child sexual assault, assault by a parent, rape, self-harm. Oh, just pretty much every sort of warning you could get, it was in that book. It was awful. And if you are very sensitive to things you can read, I would recommend not going anywhere near that book. I can't express, it's not that I hated it, it's that I was so uncomfortable reading it. I hated reading it for every moment that I picked it up. Didn't hate the book, I hated the experience, and that is literally what I can say. So next, after that, I read Jackie Haha. I moved on to a happier book. I read this for Mental Health-a-thon, for a YA, but I also read it for Ballad-a-thon as the first book in a series. Brooke gifted me Jackie Haha a while ago, so I knew I needed to get to it eventually, and I thought this was a masterpiece. I thought it was excellent. It follows a young girl who is dealing with a lot of complex personal issues. Her dad is never home. She's helping take care of, I think there are 7 sisters overall. One of them's at university, so there are 6 of them. So she's helping take care of her 5 siblings, and her mum is away in the war, and she has a really bad stutter and is often bullied for that. And the way she deals with that is through being the prankster, being the class clown, being funny. And it is great until it gets her in so much trouble that they say the only way she can work off her detentions without actually serving detention is to join the school play. And it helps her with her confidence levels and things like that. It is excellent, great read. I know if you don't read middle grade, you might not like it, but if it's potentially good for you, give it a go, because I don't think you'll regret reading this book, because it is so fun, so lighthearted. It deals with a lot of complex issues, and the fact that a middle grade book can do that, I can't rave about it enough. I really, really cannot. So I'm going to move on, but check out all of my Believe-a-thon vlogs and Mental Health-a-thon vlogs if you want to know more about these books, because I speak a lot more about them there, so you'll be able to assess whether these books are for you from that. So then, after Jackie Haha, I moved on to my next Believe-a-thon prompt, which was a book I should have read years ago, I think. And the book was The Dangerous Days of Daniel X. I have had this book for many a year. I don't know how long, but I've had it for a long, long time. And I've just never really picked up Daniel X. I think I've had a lot of James Patterson's middle grade books and then never picked them up. And this is like a YA middle grade. It's very much in the in-between. I think it's classed as a YA, but it reads as a middle grade more. And this is about an alien hunter called Daniel X, whose parents were murdered by an alien, and he has devoted his life to tracking down all the aliens and killing them. And it's really fun. It's actually very funny. It's quite light-hearted, but it deals with a lot. He was a very young boy. He's only a young teenager. And it's a very interesting read. It's the first one in a series, and I need to continue the series, actually, because I very much enjoyed it. So give it a go. Again, check out Believe-a-thon if you want to learn more about this. So after that, I moved on after that. After that, I decided to take a break from Daniel X and read a book for Books for the Brave, because actually I forgot to mention, Don't Tell Mummy was a book for Books to the Brave, and my next one, which was City of Ashes, which was for Books for the Brave, but also it was a buddy read between me and a book fiend named Mel, and I love this. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. Myself and Mel read book 1 last month. We are reading book 3 this coming month, maybe even book 1 of the Infernal Devices this coming month as well, because we're reading them in that order. And I thought this was great. It's a much shorter book than book 1, which I liked, because very long chapters, shorter book, I can deal with it. I thought this was really, really good. It follows Clary, Jace, and the crew, following the events of the first book and dealing with that. I did an entire vlog dedicated to my thoughts and feelings on this. If you have read the books or you don't really care about reading the books but you want to know how I felt, watch that vlog. It contains a lot of spoilers, so if you still want to read them, don't. But my general thoughts of this book, excellent. Not sure whether I liked it as much as book one. I really, really did like it, but I felt as though... I feel like this with a lot of Cassandra Clare's books, well, of the two I've read, I feel as though she has a decent start and then a casual middle where not much happens, but you're fine because it's an enjoyable read, and then a very tense ending. And I don't know how much longer I can be happy with that. Like, right now, I am perfectly fine with that. I think it's great. But if I'm getting to a point where I'm getting halfway through her books and I'm thinking, not really much is happening now, I don't know how much longer I'm going to really enjoy them. But I'm really excited to carry on. I love it. A lot of my theories for this book came true. So, loved it. Moving on. I'm trying to speed through these because I'm keep checking the time of how long this video is going. And I realise I'm only halfway through the vlog. So, I'm not happy about that. So, after I finished City of Ashes, I did the Hunger Games trilogy. Again, this was my 24-hour readathon. I did a full vlog on this, so check them out. All 5-star reads, all amazing. I thought they were great books. Even better the second time round. Like, I love Mockingjay. So, that's a very shiny cover, I'm so sorry. I love Mockingjay a lot more than I did the first time round because I kind of see how it works now. The Hunger Games was very much the Hunger Games with elements of war in there. Catching Fire was very much 50-50. Mockingjay is very much war with drips of Hunger Games. So it kind of goes a bit full circle with it. Or half circle. However you want to do it. It basically reverses. It goes from full Hunger Games and childish fun to all-out war, which is the point. It develops and it's great. If you have not read The Hunger Games, you should be reading The Hunger Games. They are amazing. And I read this because the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out and I wanted to read that, so I did a 24-hour readathon of these so that I could go in with all of fresh knowledge. I'm really sorry for speeding through them, but I have entire vlogs dedicated to the majority of these books. I think the only one I don't have a vlog dedicated to is The Perfect Child, which will be getting a dedicated review eventually, and The Good Girl's Guide to Murder books, I think. The rest of them are in vlogs, so just go check out the vlogs if you want to know more. Otherwise, I'm just repeating myself over and over again. So, sorry, I forgot to breathe. So, after the Hunger Games books, I read The Magician's Nephew. It was okay. It was a reread. It fit a Believe-a-thon prompt. But after rereading it, I've decided that I don't actually want to reread them. I was happy reading them the first time round. I thought they were fine. I thought they were great. But I don't really care enough to reread them. So I think I'm unhauling the entire series now, which is really sad. Because I don't want to unhaul them because I got them as a gift and I feel mean unhauling a gift. But I don't think these books are for me anymore. So I best call it quits while I can. It was fine. It was just fine. After that, I read another teeny tiny book. I love a teeny tiny book. And that is Middle School's How I Got Lost in London. And this is very much... it's a middle school, it's a middle grade book. It's about Rafe Kachgurian. And he... basically, this is like a little novella that's a company book. And he goes on holiday to London and gets lost. Pretty much as it says. Very funny, very light-hearted. A good read. Then, after that, the final prompts for Believe-a-thon was Jackie Haha number 2, which is My Life as a Joke. This, very, very good. It did get a lesser rating than Jackie Haha 1. I thought this book was equally as good as Jackie Haha, but I felt Jackie Haha had a lot of complex issues that it dealt with, such as the parent being away in a war, the death of a relative, bullying. It dealt with a lot like that. This book was equally as good with things it dealt with. It dealt with racism very well, and that's the main thing really. Racism and crime and things like that. But it didn't have the same impact on me as the first book did, so it got a 4-star rating instead of a 5. 4-star rating means I love the book, I thought it was great. It just didn't have that much of a lasting impression to the point where I'm thinking about it constantly. Like 5-star rating is reserved for proper top tier stuff. So that was it. After that, I read the Ballad of some Burdensnakes, which I do own a physical copy of, but it's right at the bottom of a big pile and I wasn't getting it out because the pile had fallen over. I apologise. I thought that was a really good book. This book was one that I was terrified to read because it was very much a love it or hate it book. And a lot of people hated it. And I was like, oh crap, I'm not going to like it. I thought it was great. I really loved it. I had a couple of issues with it, but I feel as though those issues could be rectified. I would like a sequel. I'm planning a video about making a sequel, which reminds me I need to do that. So I'm planning a video all about what would happen if the book was a sequel and then if the book came out as a trilogy. So look out for those videos whenever they turn up. I don't know when they're turning up, but they'll turn up eventually. Great book, loved it, thought it was great. It follows President Snow in his youth during the 10th annual Hunger Games, and it shows how the Hunger Games develop, and President Snow is a mentor for the District 12 girl, and basically how he really just wants to win to help his family name, but he's been given the potential worst candidate to win the Hunger Games with, and it's about his struggle and his feelings about this girl. Does he want her to survive? It's a hot mess. Can't really talk about it. Very new out. Don't want to give spoilers. I do have a review for it, so please feel free to check that review out. It is a non-spoiler section to begin with, and then we'll move on to spoilers, but it is clearly indicated, so check it out. And finally, the last book I read, which I got in on the very last bloody day of the month, was The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. Now this kind of, before I read it, it gave off like Orphan vibes, if you've ever seen that movie. It's about a young girl that comes in after being abused by her parent, her mother, I think. And the doctor who's assigned to take care of her and his wife really want children. They can't have children. So they decide to adopt this girl rather than let her go into the foster care system. The young girl kind of forms an immediate relationship to the doctor, Christopher, and she very fiercely rejects his wife, Hannah. And Hannah is really struggling to cope because it seems as though this young 6-year-old girl is heavily manipulating the situation, causing a lot of trouble, causing a lot of drama, and it's so good. It was very much a psychological thriller drama book. It is so tense. It is so mentally twisting. It's very messed up. This child is messed up. You need to read this book. I have a full review coming up soon. I have a dedicated review to it on Goodreads if you want to check it out. But I would urge you to read this book. It is really, really good. So that is all the books I read. Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly run you through some stats and then we can end this vlog. I keep getting called out for making very long videos, so I'm trying to make it shorter. I'm sorry. So I did 3 readathons. I did Books for the Brave, Mental Health-thon and Believe-a-thon. I also did a 24-hour readathon, so that was my own, but it doesn't count. I did 3 buddy reads. I did A Good Girl's Guide to Murder with Jade from paperback to hardback. I did Good Girl by Blood with Jade and Brooke from Brooks Books. And then I did City of Ashes with Mel from A Book Fiend Named Mel. In terms of formats, I read 2 ebooks, which was Turtles All the Way Down and The Million Pieces of Nina Gill. And then the rest were physical books. And in terms of my goals, I wanted to read a mixture of genres. I've read literary fiction, middle grade books, sci-fi, comedy, fantasy. I've read a lot. Mainly middle grades due to the, obviously, Believe-a-thon vlog. I read quite a few middle grades. I wanted to hit some of my 2020 reading challenge goals, which I did. For a friend's choice, I read The Perfect Child because Brooke chose that book to read because I had an extra couple of days and I let Brooke choose me a book. So Perfect Child ticks that one off. A book connected to my hobby, I chose Jackie Haha because it is about a young girl starring in a theatre production, which I do regularly. So that ticks that one off. And a book with alliteration in the title, I did A Good Girl's Guide to Murder because Good Girl's Guide. So those are my 2020 goals. Then in terms of James Patterson books, I read 4. I read Jackie Haha 1 and 2. I read Middle School's Lost in London, and I read Daniel X. And that is it for my wrap up. Ta-da! I'm so sorry if I sped through all of that. I just really want to do a short. I just really want to do a short video. I keep getting called out for doing long ones. So, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to end. And I'll chat to you whenever I do. So thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Please make sure to drop a comment down below if you have read any of these books. Give me some opinions. But put a comment down below because I really do love them. I always respond, so thank you to everyone that does. Make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell so you're always notified when I post. Other than that, give a thumbs up, and until next time, I will see you later.